Hi everybody, welcome back to Indycar Monday morning. I'm Gordon Ross, and today, well, what can I say, that didn't last very long, did it? We've had unity in the Tory party for all of, about 2 days after the big Brexit kind of stramash on Friday, where Theresa May came out claiming to have won a great victory and got everybody together, everybody on the same side, and we've now got David Davis resigning this morning. And Boris Johnson saying that this whole deal is basically a polished turd, in his own words. So it looks like the unity which May managed to achieve on Friday was very, very short-lived indeed. And Keir Starmer this morning was interviewed as well on this subject, and he is now seems to be desperately worried that we're heading rapidly towards a hard Brexit rather than anything else. In fact, not even just a hard Brexit, but a no-deal Brexit that looks like might be a reality now, because I don't think anybody really believes that it would be acceptable to the Tories to have anything less than what they have outlined on Friday. But my feeling is that the European Union will reject this. The Northern Irish Unionists will reject it because it means a border down the Irish Sea. The Scottish Government will reject it because it means Ireland getting special treatment, and again a border down the Irish Sea. So the whole thing, the whole mess is gradually just coming apart at the seams, as we always knew it would. It is a kind of Frankenstein deal which is stitched together from the dead components of other failed experiments that the UK have tried to put together in the last 2 years or so since Brexit was voted on. But the plain fact of the matter is you're either in or you're out with the EU. If you are wanting a trade deal, you have to really behave as though you remember, because that's the rules that the EU stated at the beginning. These are the rules of a trade deal. The British government just doesn't accept rules because they think they're just inconvenient and don't apply to a country like Britain. Well, I think they're about to be proved very, very wrong. We in Scotland know only too well what it's like to have half freedom. We have lived in a limbo of devolution for the last, 20 years or so, where we have had some powers but not all powers. We've had powers over things like road signs and health and education and other areas of devolved administration, which we have traditionally done anyway, but we're no further forward towards becoming an independent country. We have no real power over anything at all of any importance. In fact, the number of things that are still reserved is quite long. In fact, when you look at it, we have very little control at all over anything. In fact, far, far less than Britain has inside the EU. So we know only too well that a hodgepodge halfway fudge is no substitute for real freedom. And in fact, I think the downside of this entire mess that the Tories are creating is now that the Scottish people have to wait and decide when is the right time to leave the UK. It's not a case now of whether or not to leave it, it's a question of when to leave it, because the European Union has to decide what it's going to offer the UK in October, because that's when the 27 remaining members meet up again, and they have to agree whatever it is the joint position is and what is going to be offered to the UK, because this isn't a negotiation as the British government has characterised it. This will be the EU deciding what Britain gets, because we don't decide what we get. We're not negotiating. This is not a business deal. This is not us driving a bargain and bluffing it out. The European Union knows that it holds all the cards. Britain has got nothing going for it at all. The threat of a no-deal Brexit is not a threat to the EU, it's a threat to the UK. Although Britain still seems to think that threatening to walk away is going to scare 27 other countries. The 27 other countries are just going to say, well, walk away then. It's your loss, not ours, and they'd be right. So where does it leave us in Scotland? Well, it leaves us still waiting, as usual, to see what happens next. I believe that this white paper is going to be published either later this week or next week, and we will all get a chance to see what the Tories have decided in some detail. But going by what's already been released, it is exactly the same reworked confection that we had a week ago, which the European Union said no, that's no good, you'll need to rework it because we can't offer you that. And they've come back with precisely the same offer again, the UK, only supposedly having the Brexiteers agree to it. In my view, and it is only my view, the Brexiteers only agreed to it because they thought, well, let's let Theresa May have her go at doing this. We know it's going to fail anyway, so we'll just wait until it does fail. Theresa May's government will collapse and the Brexiteers will hold another, probably another general election, and hoping that Boris Johnson will become the next PM or Michael Gove will become the next Tory PM. Failing that, Labour steps into the breach and ends up holding the baby, the Brexit baby, which is the one thing the Labour Party really doesn't want to have happen to it, because it isn't really capable of deciding anything for itself at the moment. It can't seem to decide what its position on Brexit is, other than it's going to happen. So that leaves us with a hard Brexit or a no-deal Brexit, because the European Union is going to give us a hard Brexit. The best deal that we could possibly get is going to be something similar to either Switzerland or Canada, which basically means a reduced rate of tariffs and nothing else, because we will not allow free movement of people. So therefore we can't have a normal free trade deal. We can only have a deal which gives us a reduced level of tariffs, now a reduced level of taxation. But it does mean that come March the 29th, considering that it's probably going to be a no-deal Brexit, there will be chaos, because there is not going to be enough warehousing, there's not going to be enough customs officials, there won't be enough bureaucracy set up to deal with the numbers of tens of thousands of visas that are going to be required for people to come in and go out of the UK constantly. It's going to probably increase the workload at least 50% for the border guards at the moment who are currently employed, and it is going to create vast immobile queues of lorries at the ports waiting to get customs clearance, because that's what closing your borders means. But this is in fact, I think, exactly what Boris and Gove and the rest of them actually want. They want this chaos to happen, they want to get it over with, work their way through the chaos, come out the other side of it with a country which is completely clear of the European Union, and able then to do what they want, which is to do a deal with America. Except that America seems to be distancing itself from everybody. It's closing its doors as well, even to Britain, and it has already slapped massive tariffs on aeroplanes made in the UK being sold into America. So if the Americans are closing the doors to British goods already, how are we going to do a deal with them? And what would that deal entail? And I think we all know the answer to that is that the Americans would make it a condition that they are allowed to bid for or take over the NHS as the cost of this deal. So it's not going to be good for us, it's not going to be good for the NHS, and I think, judging by the numbers of civil servants being arranged and hired at the moment by David Mundell, that the backstop for the UK government is to centralise control over what they call the regions, in other words Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. Devolution, I think, will be reversed in the case of a no-deal Brexit. So when it's clear that there is going to be a no-deal Brexit, that's the very last moment in which we can have another vote on independence, and that is the final chapter. We can't do it any later than that, because if we do, we risk having power centralised and then losing the ability to call any kind of referendum at all. So the timing of this now is key. But we're in the end stages now, where the Brexiteers are separating themselves from Theresa May. Theresa May is having a last shot at this, going down with the ship, as it were. If this fails, and I predict it will fail, then the deal that is offered to the UK will be bad. And the Europeans know it will be bad, and it will then be up to the British people as to whether to accept the bad deal or walk away from it and have nothing. And that's when the real danger area is, because if it comes to a second referendum on what's being offered by the EU, that's where the problems begin, because we're either going to have to accept a bad deal or no deal. There isn't going to be a good deal. There isn't going to be a soft parachute landing in Brexit. There's not going to be any kind of lead-in time. There's no transition now. You'll notice nobody has talked about the transition, and that's because there isn't one now. It's been taken off the table because Britain didn't meet the conditions. So having done that, we now guaranteed to be leaving the European Union on the 29th of March next year. Ready or not, here it comes. Bye for now.